Emily Carter had always believed in one simple truth: hard work never fails. From her early days in college, where she worked 2 part-time jobs while maintaining top grades, to her first position at an ambitious tech firm in New York City, she carried with her an almost unshakable faith that dedication and passion would always be rewarded. She was 28 now, a senior analyst at Redwood Innovations, a mid-sized company trying to compete with the giants of the industry. For Emily, Redwood wasn't just a job, it was her second home. She arrived earlier than most, left later than all, and poured her entire soul into projects that others would treat as simple assignments. She dreamed of one day climbing the corporate ladder, and maybe even leading her own division. But dreams, as Emily was about to discover, could be fragile things, especially when jealousy and greed entered the picture. Redwood Innovations had one glaring problem: its leadership. At the top of Emily's department sat Marcus Hale, a man in his 40s with the kind of charm that dazzled clients, but hid a much darker truth. Marcus was lazy, manipulative, and deeply insecure about his own lack of vision. While Emily believed in building ideas, Marcus believed in stealing them. And Emily, with her brilliant creativity and relentless determination, had unknowingly become his favorite target. Whenever Emily presented a fresh concept in team meetings, Marcus would smile, nod, and then quietly take notes. A week later, he'd present the same concept as his own, polishing it with corporate jargon, while Emily sat in silence, knowing she had no proof to call him out. The office culture encouraged silence. Speaking against Marcus was a death sentence for one's career. So Emily endured, clinging to the belief that one day her true work would shine. One day her efforts would be undeniable. That day seemed closer than ever when Redwood was invited to pitch for a multi-million-dollar contract with Titan Tech, one of the largest companies in the sector. The project was enormous, a potential game-changer that could triple Redwood's annual revenue. Emily was ecstatic when she was chosen as part of the core development team. For weeks, she worked tirelessly, 12-hour days, weekends, even missing family dinners. She sketched prototypes, wrote detailed reports, and ran simulations long into the night. Her apartment became cluttered with sticky notes, her laptop filled with drafts and versions. Finally, after 2 months of sacrifice, Emily crafted something extraordinary: a revolutionary data platform that promised to reduce client costs by 30% while boosting efficiency. It wasn't just a project, it was her masterpiece. She felt proud. She felt ready. And most of all, she felt that maybe finally, this was the moment her hard work would be recognized. The boardroom was filled with anticipation. Titan Tech's executives sat across the long mahogany table, their expressions serious, their pens poised over notepads. Redwood's team, including Marcus and Emily, sat nervously, waiting for the chance to present. Emily had her laptop open, her slides polished to perfection. Her heart pounded with both fear and excitement. But just as she was about to begin, Marcus cleared his throat and stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said confidently, smiling at the clients, "we at Redwood Innovations have prepared something groundbreaking for you. Allow me to present my vision for Titan Tech's future." Emily froze. Her throat went dry. Her hands trembled on the keyboard. As Marcus clicked through the slides Emily had spent months perfecting, her chest tightened. Every word that came out of his mouth was hers. Every idea, every innovation, every careful detail she had built with her blood and sweat, all of it was being paraded as his creation. The Titan Tech executives were impressed. They nodded, they whispered among themselves, they even smiled. "Brilliant," one of them said. "Absolutely brilliant." Emily sat there in silence, her stomach churning, her fists clenched under the table. When the meeting ended, Marcus basked in the glow of Titan Tech's praise. Back at the office, the entire department congratulated him. Champagne bottles popped, laughter echoed, and Marcus pretended to be humble, saying things like, "Oh, it was nothing," and "team effort, really." Emily thought the worst was over, until the following morning. She was summoned to Marcus's office, where HR was already waiting. "Emily," Marcus said coldly, no trace of the charm he showed clients, "we've reviewed your recent performance. Frankly, it hasn't met the standards we expect at Redwood." Emily's jaw dropped. "What are you talking about? I work day and night on." "On what?" Marcus interrupted sharply. "Because from where I stand, I don't see much contribution from you. The Titan Tech project was my vision, And frankly, we can't afford employees who try to take credit where it isn't due. Her heart stopped. You're saying, I tried to take credit for your work. That's exactly what I'm saying, Marcus replied smoothly, leaning back in his chair. HR remained stone-faced, already sliding the termination papers across the desk. Emily felt the room spinning. She wanted to scream, to fight, to reveal the truth. But she had no proof. Marcus had carefully erased her name from the drafts, altered timestamps, even deleted files from shared folders. He had planned everything. And now, in less than 15 minutes, her career was shattered. As she walked out of Redwood Innovations for the last time, carrying a single box of her belongings, co-workers whispered behind her. Some pitied her, others smirked knowingly, and a few even avoided her gaze. Emily's face burned with shame. She felt betrayed, humiliated, discarded like trash after years of loyalty. That night, she sat alone in her apartment, staring at the city lights outside her window. Her phone buzzed with messages from her parents, asking if she was okay, but she couldn't bring herself to answer. For hours, she cried. For hours, she wondered if maybe she really was a failure. But somewhere between midnight and dawn, something inside her shifted. The pain hardened into resolve, the tears dried into fire. She whispered into the silence of her empty apartment. They think they've destroyed me, but they've just created their worst. For the first time in years, Emily Carter had no reason to wake up early. No office to rush to. No projects demanding her attention. The silence of her apartment was suffocating. Mornings stretched into afternoons, afternoons into nights, each hour mocking her with the memory of everything she had lost. Her inbox filled with rejection emails from companies she applied to. Some didn't even bother replying. Her savings dwindled. Bills piled up. The same city that once glowed with ambition now seemed like a cage made of glass towers. Everywhere she looked, people were moving forward, and she was stuck in quicksand. But worst of all wasn't the unemployment. It was the news she stumbled across one evening, when a headline flashed across her screen. Redwood Innovations to launch revolutionary data platform. CEO praises Marcus Hale's visionary leadership. Her stomach twisted. The platform was hers. Her design. Her sweat. Her creation. Now it was being marketed to the world under Marcus's name. She slammed the laptop shut, her chest heaving. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The betrayal felt fresh all over again, like a wound ripped open. For a moment, she thought maybe Marcus had won. Maybe the world would never know the truth. But deep down, in the hollow of that despair, a small spark flickered. And Emily knew, if she stayed broken, Marcus would win forever. 2 weeks later, while sipping cheap coffee at a corner cafe, Emily heard a familiar voice. Emily, is that really you? She looked up. Standing there was Daniel Brooks, a former colleague from Redwood. Daniel had left months earlier, frustrated by the toxic culture Marcus fostered. He sat across from her, concern etched on his face. I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Everyone knows Marcus is a snake. You didn't deserve that. The words cracked something inside Emily. For the first time since being fired, she felt seen. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't imagining things. Daniel leaned in. You know, you're not the only one Marcus burned. He's been exploiting people for years. There are plenty of us who left Redwood because of him. People with talent. People who just needed a chance. Emily blinked. What are you saying? I'm saying, Daniel replied with a cautious smile, maybe it's time someone fought back. The thought lingered in Emily's mind long after Daniel left. Fight back. She replayed Marcus's smug face in her head, the sound of HR accusing her, the humiliation of walking out with that box of belongings. Fight back. But how? Marcus had power, resources, and the backing of Redwood's executives. Emily had nothing, or so she thought. That night, she opened her old hard drive. Hours turned into dawn as she scrolled through backups, old drafts, forgotten notes. Hidden in a folder marked EC Final Concepts was a version of her platform, more advanced, more refined than the one Redwood was about to launch. Her heart raced. Marcus had stolen her work, yes, but he didn't even have the best version. And suddenly the idea took root. She didn't need to take Redwood to court. She didn't need to beg for recognition. She could build something better, on her own. The next few weeks became a blur of late-night calls and whispered meetings. Daniel connected her with others who had once worked under Marcus. Sophie, a brilliant coder Marcus had belittled until she quit. Raj, a systems architect who left after his designs were stolen. Clara, a marketer with fresh ideas Marcus mocked in front of clients. Each of them carried scars. Each of them carried resentment. And each of them carried talent Marcus had wasted. When Emily shared her vision, not just to outdo Redwood, but to build a company where talent was valued, where people could thrive without fear, their eyes lit up. For the first time, Emily wasn't alone. She had an army. Building something from scratch wasn't easy. Their office was a cluttered apartment living room. Their desks were old folding tables. Their budget was whatever scraps of savings they could scrape together. Nights blurred into mornings, the glow of laptops the only light. They coded, argued, tested, and failed more times than they could count. There were moments Emily doubted herself, moments she wondered if Marcus was right. Maybe she really was just average. But every time doubt crept in, she remembered the humiliation of being cast aside, the headline calling Marcus a visionary. That anger became fuel. And slowly, the platform began to take shape. Smarter, faster, sleeker than anything Redwood had. Meanwhile, Redwood Innovations paraded its upcoming launch across every news outlet. Billboards lit up the city. Tech magazines praised Marcus Hale as the next great innovator. Emily's friends sent her screenshots with sympathetic messages. "Isn't this your idea?" Each headline was like a dagger. But instead of breaking her, it sharpened her resolve. She whispered to her team one night, as they huddled over laptops. "Let them launch it. Let them have their moment. Because when we're done, the world will see who the real innovator is." Weeks before Redwood's official launch, Emily's team finally had a working prototype. They tested it with small clients, who were blown away by its efficiency. Word began to spread quietly, through whispers and back channels. One evening, as Emily walked home, she passed a massive billboard glowing in the night sky. "Redwood Innovations, the future arrives this summer." She stopped, staring up at Marcus's smug face plastered beside the words. But instead of anger, Emily smiled. A cold, determined smile. Because Redwood thought they were about to dominate the market. But Emily knew something they didn't. Their stolen future was already obsolete. Redwood Innovations had announced it everywhere. June 15th would be the day of their grand product launch. The city buzzed with anticipation. Investors were circling. Media outlets were primed. Marcus Hale was preparing for the spotlight of his career. But across town, in a cramped apartment filled with tangled wires and half-empty coffee cups, Emily Carter and her small band of allies were preparing for something else entirely. A silent war. Their platform, codenamed Phoenix, wasn't just ready. It was alive. Sophie's code made it lightning fast. Raj's architecture made it nearly indestructible. Clara had already mapped out a guerrilla marketing plan to hit social media like wildfire. The problem? Timing. If they launched too soon, Redwood would crush them with lawsuits and marketing muscle. If they launched too late, Redwood would dominate the industry. They needed the perfect strike. One night, Daniel walked into their makeshift office with a USB drive. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "I still have a friend inside Redwood," he whispered. "She slipped me this." On the drive was Redwood's confidential launch presentation. Emily's stomach dropped as she read through the slides. Marcus wasn't just stealing her old work. He had overpromised to Titan Tech and several other clients. He claimed features that weren't even in the platform, features he didn't know how to build. "That's fraud," Sophie muttered, eyes wide. Emily's mind raced. Redwood was setting itself up for a spectacular failure. The clients would soon realize the product didn't deliver. But failure alone wasn't enough. Emily didn't want Marcus to just stumble. She wanted him to fall so hard he could never rise again. Clara leaned forward, her voice sharp with excitement. "If we leak Phoenix to the right people, tech reviewers, influencers, small businesses, we'll create a storm before Redwood's launch. By the time Marcus takes the stage, half the industry will already be whispering about us." Emily hesitated. "If we do that, Redwood will know exactly who's behind it. Marcus will come for us." Daniel smirked. "Let him. The louder he screams, the guiltier he'll look." So they began. Quietly, strategically. Clara reached out to small tech blogs and gave them exclusive early access to Phoenix. Sophie created demo accounts that spread like wildfire among online forums. Raj posted anonymous comparisons showing Phoenix outperforming every other system. The effect was immediate. In less than a week, hashtags began trending. Hashtag Who Built Phoenix. Hashtag better than Redwood. The whispers grew louder. Tech enthusiasts speculated about a mysterious new company challenging Redwood's monopoly. And Marcus? He had no idea the storm was forming beneath his feet. But storms don't stay hidden forever. 3 days before Redwood's launch, Marcus stormed into his office, slamming the door behind him. His assistant nervously handed him a stack of reports. Online chatter, leaked demos, comparisons. His face reddened as he scrolled. Phoenix, what the hell is this? When he realized the product mirrored Emily's original vision, but better, his stomach turned. He called emergency meetings, yelled at his team, even accused them of leaking information. But deep down, Marcus knew. He knew exactly who was behind Phoenix. Emily Carter, he hissed under his breath. That night, Emily's phone buzzed. A private number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Enjoying your little game? Marcus's voice oozed venom. Emily stayed silent. You think you can embarrass me? You're nothing, Emily. Nothing. I made Redwood. I own this industry. And when I find out who's funding you, I'll bury you so deep no one will remember your name. Her hands trembled, but her voice came out steady. Funny, because last time I checked, Redwood was standing on my work. And I don't bury easy, Marcus. I rise. She hung up before he could reply. For the first time, Marcus Hale felt fear. June 14th. Redwood's headquarters was buzzing like a beehive. Final rehearsals, press calls, investor dinners. Marcus strutted through the halls, barking orders, pretending everything was under control. But in his private office, he was unraveling. The buzz about Phoenix was growing louder, threatening to overshadow his big day. Meanwhile, Emily's team sat in their cramped living room, staring at laptops. Their launch site was scheduled to go live just 1 hour before Redwood's event. The tension was unbearable. No one spoke much. Every keystroke echoed like thunder. Emily looked at her exhausted team. Sophie with bloodshot eyes, Raj with his leg bouncing nervously, Clara chewing her nails. She smiled softly. No matter what happens tomorrow, I'm proud of us. We built something real. Together. They smiled back. And for the first time in weeks, the fear seemed smaller. June 15th. At 9 a.m., Marcus stood backstage at Redwood's grand launch event. Cameras were ready, investors filled the room, the media lights blazed. He adjusted his tie, forcing a confident smile. At 9:15 a.m., Emily sat in her apartment, her laptop open, finger hovering over the enter key. Her team crowded around her. Ready, she whispered. They nodded. She pressed the key. The Phoenix website went live. Instantly, thousands of users who had been waiting flooded in. Downloads spiked. Tech reviewers tweeted. Forums exploded. Within minutes, Phoenix was trending worldwide. At 10 a.m., Marcus walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. But as he spoke, the audience was distracted. People in the crowd glanced at their phones, whispering to each other. Some were even laughing. By the time Marcus finished his first demo slide, a journalist raised their hand. Mr. Hale, how do you respond to comparisons between Redwood's platform and the newly launched Phoenix system? Many are saying Phoenix is already outperforming yours. Marcus froze. His smile faltered. Cameras flashed, recording every second of his humiliation. Back in the apartment, Emily and her team watched the live stream. Marcus's face was pale, his voice cracking as he tried to deny, deflect, dismiss. The room erupted in cheers. Sophie cried. Raj laughed so hard he nearly spilled his coffee. But Emily? She just leaned back in her chair, her expression calm, almost cold. Because she knew this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. The war had just gone public. The Redwood launch was supposed to be Marcus Hale's crowning achievement. Instead, it became his public execution. Within minutes of stepping onto the stage, he had been ambushed by a barrage of questions comparing his product to Phoenix. Investors who were once leaning forward in admiration now sat back with folded arms, eyes cold with suspicion. Some whispered angrily. Others openly typed on their phones, probably texting their lawyers or brokers. Marcus tried to salvage it. Our platform is the most innovative solution on the market, he stammered, sweat glistening under the stage lights. Phoenix's, well, it's not. It's just a copy and imitation. But the journalists weren't buying it. Screens in the auditorium lit up with live tweets, side-by-side comparisons proving Redwood's system was slower, less efficient, and worst of all, nearly identical to Emily's original prototypes. The humiliation was streamed worldwide. By the time Marcus left the stage, Redwood's stock had already begun to plummet. Meanwhile, Phoenix was soaring. The team's website nearly crashed under the traffic. Reviewers raved about its sleek design, flawless performance, and affordability. Early adopters flooded social media with praise. Small businesses hailed it as a miracle tool. And the question on everyone's lips was the same. Who is behind Phoenix? Emily didn't rush to reveal herself. She let the mystery grow, let the hype build until the entire tech world was begging to know. Finally, 2 days after Redwood's collapse began, she agreed to a single interview with Tech Today Live, the biggest technology news network in the country. The studio lights were blinding, the cameras intimidating. Emily adjusted the microphone, her heart thundering in her chest. The host smiled warmly. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have with us the founder of Phoenix, the platform that has shaken the tech industry to its core. Please welcome Emily Carter." Her name trended globally within minutes. Emily spoke with calm precision, her voice steady but powerful. She told her story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. How her ideas were stolen, how she was humiliated, how she refused to break, choosing instead to rebuild from the ashes. "I didn't set out for revenge," she concluded, her eyes sharp. "I set out for justice. Not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been silenced, stolen from, or overlooked. Phoenix isn't just software. It's proof that no amount of corruption can bury true innovation." The audience erupted. Millions watching at home applauded. And somewhere in his office, Marcus Hale smashed a glass against the wall. The fallout was brutal. Investors pulled out of Redwood en masse, redirecting their money toward Phoenix. Clients demanded refunds, threatening lawsuits for false promises. Employees resigned in waves, many reaching out to Emily's team for jobs. The media tore Marcus apart, unearthing years of manipulations, lies, and betrayals. Within a month, Redwood Innovations filed for bankruptcy. And Marcus Hale? He was last seen leaving his penthouse in the middle of the night, hounded by reporters shouting questions like, "Do you regret stealing from Emily Carter? And how does it feel to lose everything?" He never answered, because Marcus Hale, the so-called visionary, had become nothing more than a cautionary tale. For Emily, success wasn't instant glamour. It was long nights, endless work, and the weight of leadership. But she embraced it. Phoenix grew faster than anyone expected. Within a year, it became the industry standard, praised not just for its technology but for its company culture. Employees flourished under Emily's leadership, empowered to innovate without fear. The same apartment that once felt like a cage became a war room of dreams. And eventually, a thriving headquarters filled with hundreds of people who believed in Emily's vision. And though the world called her a genius, Emily never forgot the truth. She hadn't done this alone. She had risen because of Daniel, Sophie, Raj, Clara, and every underdog who dared to fight back. Months later, as fate would have it, Emily ran into Marcus one final time. It was at a charity gala, where powerful figures of the tech world gathered. Marcus looked like a shadow of his former self, thinner, pale, eyes bloodshot. He was no longer surrounded by admirers, only whispers of disgrace. He approached Emily at the edge of the ballroom, his voice hoarse. "You ruined me," he said. Emily met his gaze without flinching. "No, Marcus. You ruined yourself. I just refused to let you ruin me too." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Marcus turned away, swallowed by the crowd that no longer cared he existed. That night, as Emily stood by the balcony overlooking the glittering city lights, Clara joined her. "You did it," Clara whispered. Emily shook her head, a small smile tugging at her lips. "We did it." She raised a glass of champagne, her reflection shimmering in the window. For years she had been underestimated, overlooked, betrayed. But now she was unshakable. And as the city pulsed below, she finally understood the truth. The sweetest revenge isn't destroying your enemy. It's shining so bright that their darkness disappears.